Hi, I'm Rachel, and I have company today. This is Missy, and we're here to talk about Friday reads for October 4th, 2019. I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet, not talk at all about any of my September reading because I just got up my monthly literary newsletter. I have excerpts from everything that I read, the Goodreads reviews in there, as well as other content like news that stuck out to me and a book meme and a book pick and that sort of stuff, so just check that out down below. One book I did talk about in my last Friday reads is this one. This is PIRKEI IMAHOT, The Wisdom of the Mothers and the Voices of Women. I picked this up for high holidays because I always like to read some religiously inspired literature around that time. But what I didn't realize is that they have all of these sections where you write out your own thoughts, peppered throughout the entire book. It's really exciting. I just need to actually map out the time to sit down and really think about this stuff, but I'm excited really to have a record not only of the ruminations of these women, but my own as well. I'm also in the middle of listening to Tidelands by Philippa Gregory. She actually came to the National Book Festival at the end of August to talk about this book in particular. I haven't read any of Philippa Gregory's other works, and I think I was most intrigued to go into this one because of its focus on a common character rather than, you know, an English queen. And also the time period is kind of intriguing to me, the English Civil War of the mid-17th century. My first read of 2019 and my still favorite read is The Weight of Ink by Rachel Kadish, which is about the Jews of Britain when they were officially invited back into the country about 10 to 20 years after this book. There were some in the country during this time, but they were deep in hiding. And I just found it fascinating to think about the interplay of history and that backdrop, because during the time when the Jews are invited in the Kadish book is when the son of the king in this book is finally put back into power and the Puritans are put down, whereas in this book this king is a prisoner and the Parliament and the puritanical army are on the upswing. This is also making me think maybe I should finally watch The Favorite because it's, you know, 2 generations removed from this, so this time period of English history is apparently interesting me right now. But this takes place in a very sort of backwater area of the Tidelands, kind of a foul, murky place in the middle of nowhere. We're primarily following a woman who's lived there her whole life. And she has a lot of things kind of going against her. She's been abandoned by her husband, which in this time period reflects badly on her rather than him. And she's also skilled in herbs and midwifery and that sort of thing. And this is a very superstitious time that likes to find ways to blame women, basically. Gregory really goes a lot into the inherent misogyny of the age. And it's an interesting juxtaposition with the political history that's going on. The fact that this Civil War does seem in part to be about more common folk being, you know, sick to death of the power abuses of the rich. But it does seem like no matter who's in power, women are always at the bottom of the totem pole. The world building in here is just incredible. Maybe it's making me think that really for anyone interested in any expansive world building, like for fantasy or anything, go to historical fiction. Because I feel like you can really understand how the day-to-day life works in this area, like about who's beholden to who's the landowner, who's, you know, the top of the totem pole. It's a weird time because, you know, there's a lot of anti-royalist stuff going on, but we still have this very British class system that's still in place, although there's a little bit of animosity about that, but it doesn't seem like it's really going anywhere in a huge way. I mean, a lot of the infrastructure really is based upon this class system. I think Gregory also has criticisms for both the old and the new church. I guess particularly when it comes to women and how they're punished. But I think she also has a fair bit of sympathy for all of her characters. My major criticism, I think, is maybe the main character, Eleanor. Maybe she's a little too perfect. You know, she's a beauty. Well, she's not bothering me as much. I wouldn't say that's it. I mean, I guess it always makes my eyebrow quirk when it's like, she's singled out as the sole poorest person in the area, like, uber outcast, although there are instances of other outcasts, particularly of women. Another character who I guess I have a little trouble with is the miller's wife, who is really like, in Harry Potter terms, like, Aunt Petunia meets Dolores Umbridge. She's really bad, sort of kind of one-dimensionally cruel, although part of me also thinks maybe that's par for the course, because, when you have so little power, sometimes, the worst of us, turn it on other people. I feel like there's something inherently cliquish about the British class system anyway. It's kind of like Mean Girls and going on in here. So really, I'm very much enjoying this. In a way, I guess I'm surprised that it's a series, but I don't think I see the end game yet, so we'll have to see if I'm interested in continuing with this. For the moment, I'm eyeing this for the historical fiction category for the Goodreads Choice Awards, which I can't shut up about in any of these videos. And finally, I just started this memoir, A Land Twice Promised, An Israeli Woman's Quest for Peace by Noah Baum. I say it's a memoir, and it really is. I think there's a bit of a performative aspect to it, because this woman is a performance actor, and I saw her in person a couple of years ago, and she was sort of performing parts of this narrative, although it really mostly does just read like a straight-up narrative. We're starting with her perspective of what it was to grow up in Israel in the 60s and the 70s. And then I believe we're going to move to a Palestinian who grew up in the area at that time. Baum and this Palestinian met each other when they were living in America, and in that context they were able to talk to each other and understand each other's stories. So I'm expecting this to be an uplifting read about people, coming together in empathy. So it's also a good read, I suppose, for the high holidays, because we're big on justice, but also big on redemption coming up in Yom Kippur. And I also finally wanted to get to this book because I think it's the last book that I'll ever get from my local JCC's book festival, because they've discontinued them. I'm kind of sad about that. I feel kind of nostalgic and sad that I think this will be the last one. Oh well, I guess I'll have to pilfer my ever-growing collection of signed books from other readings. So that about covers it for me now. I think it's going to be a pretty easygoing weekend for me. I might get some work done in reading and writing in this book. I also want to start tackling my snowflake outline for my fantasy project for NaNoWriMo. I talked a bit about that in my latest writing quarterly wrap-up video. I'll also link that down below. And of course, I hope to hang out with this little lady, if she'll have me. So I hope all is going well for you in your reading lives and otherwise. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.